Maurice 12, FS 12, 12. Maurice 12 is a model of Maurice car introduced without fanfare in the autumn of 1934 as little more than a larger-engined Maurice 10-4 for which just another £5 was asked. The chassis and body were of the slow-selling longer wheelbase 10-6. The engine, though awarded a tax rating of 11.98 HP, had a cubic capacity of 1548 compared with Maurice's 1292, 10 HP 10-4, and 1378 12.98. This resulted from the vagaries of the Treasury's tax rating formula, which took no account of the length of the engine's stroke. Very long stroke engines such as were given the 12 provided good low-speed torque at the expense of reliability at higher RPM. Such engines were unable to make full use of better fuels and the improved engine breathing techniques that were coming available. Maurice briefly promoted the series Roman II car with the note that it performed just like a 14-horsepower car, but that brought about a clash from the summer of 1936 when Maurice began to supply a 6-cylinder 8. While both this new 12 and the 10 variant 10-6 models appeared in the Maurice catalog for 1935, the slow-selling 10-6 was soon dropped. The 12 remained in production until war intervened and was replaced after the war by the 1476 but 13.1/2 horsepower Maurice Oxford MO. Each new model showed further integration of the structure of chassis and body. The post-war replacement, Maurice Oxford MO, was close to full unitary construction. Maurice 12-4. The Maurice 12-4 appeared in the autumn of 1934, probably overshadowed by the promotion of the new model Maurice 8. It was also after 3 years when it had been sold as a Maurice Cowley. When named Cowley, it had been available with the Oxford's 1802 engine as well as the 1548 engine. This 12 shared much with Maurice's 1292 10-4 and 1378 10-6 using the 10-4 gearbox and ratios but with wider wheels and larger section tires than either of the smaller engined cars and with modifications, the wheelbase of the 10-6 which was 6 inches more than the 10-4. The wheelbase was almost an inch longer than the 10-6. It also had a fuel tank, which held a gallon more than either of the other cars. Brakes, suspension, steering. Lockheed hydraulic brakes were fitted on all 4 wheels, the handbrake on the rear wheels using a mechanical linkage. Suspension was by long semi-elliptic springs at front and rear with Armstrong hydraulic shock absorbers. Steering was by Bishop cam. Maurice 12 Series Roman II. Series Roman II was announced on Friday, 17 May 1935, along with a new 10-4 as a kind of extra note tagged to the main 10-4 display advertisement. You can have a 12-horsepower model for £5. The Series Roman II came with a new longer and lower body with all passengers seated within the wheelbase, narrow windscreen pillars, and wide windscreen. Special construction of the body and frame bolted together was designed to produce a strong double box section. New built-in luggage accommodation at the rear of the body was accessible by lifting the rear seat's hinged backrest. The previous 12 had no covered luggage space. An external folding luggage grid was continued from the last car to cope with any extra luggage. The new to the 12 special coupe continued to have its special inbuilt luggage container. New instrumentation for the driver included direction indicators were now concealed within the body and controlled from the steering wheel and given a driver's warning light in the center of the wheel. The pedals were now mounted directly to the frame chassis and free from vibration. A new 3-speed synchromesh gearbox was fitted along with standard Juckall built-in hydraulic jacks and Magna wired wheels. A 3-speed gearbox produced at least a 25% reduction in anxiety level for most drivers. Suburban streets shivered to the sound of grating gears in pre-synchromesh gearboxes. Easy clean pressed steel wheels with 6-stud fixing became available, initially as an option, but in either case, they carried 5.75/16 extra low-pressure tires of a smaller section than the previous model. A spare wheel with its tire was carried in, a sunken panel on the back of the car and a steel cover was supplied for it on the dearer sliding head model, which also carried toughened glass in its side and rear windows. Electrical fittings now included a single acting foot-operated switch to dip the headlights and raise them when pressed again. A single electric windscreen wiper mounted on the lower screen rail was supplied to provide clear forward vision in poor weather. Following the 1936 annual motor show, when no new variations were offered, no change for Olympia, Maurice inserted large display advertisements offering to buyers of all their cars bigger than the Maurice 8 a choice of 3-speed gearbox and jack-all hydraulic jacks, or 4-speed gearbox without jack-all hydraulic jacks, or 4-speed gearbox with jack-all hydraulic jacks at £5 extra, easy clean wheels optional without extra cost 3 months after they had been first offered as an option, during which 92% of buyers chose them. Road test. The Times testers said the 4-door 6-light body offers ample space for 4 large persons, neither elbow nor leg room being cramped. There is unusually good headroom. They also reported that passengers were given a high view, useful when touring. Entrance to the front seats was regarded as very fair, and it was noted that it was possible for the driver to slide in from the near side. The restricted entrance behind, unless the seats were slid forward, was noted. The whole car's exterior was viewed as tidy-looking, and easy clean wheels were thought to help that attractive appearance. The back axle, it was complained, produced a light hum. Maurice 12 Series Roman III. Announced 20 August 1937, a new boutique shape with better seating and a new engine was announced in August 1937 and designated Series Roman III. The electrical system was now 12-volt. The engine had been introduced to power the Walsally 12/48 and the MGVA in October 1936, though that did not enter production until mid-1937. Badged Maurice 12, but described in its early brochures as the Maurice 12 4 Series Roman III. Its major advances on the previous 12 were the overhead valve engine, more rounded edges for the shorter, smoother new body, on a smaller wheelbase, and now it had a real boot with outside access to any luggage it held. This new container's nearly 10 cubic feet might be amplified by leaving the lid open, which then formed a luggage rack. The spare wheel with its tire was now carried independently below the luggage compartment and fully enclosed. The 4-speed gearbox had been given better synchromesh and silent helical-type gears for second, third, and top. Aside from the transmission tunnel, the floor was now quite flat without footwells. Easy clean pressed steel wheels carried extra low-pressure 5.50/16 tires of a slightly smaller section than previously. Useful conveniences included clearer instrumentation, self-canceling trafficators, and now twin windscreen wipers with remote silent drive and independent operation. There was an automatically actuated stoplight at the back of the car. Particular care had been taken to ensure draft-free ventilation by scuttle ventilators and hinged rear quarter lights. The windscreen was hinged at the top for clear, sheltered, wet weather, unmisted vision after dark. The front windows were fitted with louvers and, when open, the windows provided an extractor effect at their rear edge. The steering was by Bishop Cam. The rigid axle suspension for both front and rear was controlled by long semi-elliptic springs aided by Armstrong hydraulic dampers. A special coupe body, they were features of almost all the Maurice range for more than a decade, was no longer available, but a rolling chassis remained in the catalogue for those who wished to have their car fitted with special coachwork. These very complete chassis kits included wings, running boards, headlamps, instruments, spare wheel, and complete tool kit. Road test. The Times motoring correspondent declared the car had good room for 4 occupants, and their head clearance, he said, was not unduly low. It was also noted the 4-wheel brakes were hydraulic and used the Lockheed patents. The new engine greatly reduced the need for gear changing. The car was described as commendably stable, and the front seat passengers traveled comfortably. However, at the back, with orthodox front suspension, there was more movement, but the springing, so far as it went, was good. Steering was a star feature, Firm yet light, and without wandering or hesitation. About 70 miles an hour could be reached on top gear. As the Times puts it, the orthodox front suspension, Maurice's obsolescent rigid front axle, forced the passengers well back in the car into the six-light saloon shape despite the newfound preference for carrying all passengers within the wheelbase. Once independent suspension was introduced, which was not in this case until 1948 and the 12's Oxford MO replacement, the engine could be right at the front of the car without leaving clearance below it for a rigid front axle.